Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Dojo Live show of the week, this August 23rd. My name is Kim Lantis, airing live from Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. Joining me is America Guerrero down in Mexico City.
Good morning. Yeah, good afternoon for me.
Good afternoon.
Morning for you, I guess. Oh, no.
Nope, afternoon now, 12 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah,
perfect.
Right.
And today's guest, this is the pleasure to have you today, Steve Thomas, CEO of HackNotice. Thank you so much for joining us, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, airing from Austin, Texas, where we just learned it's like the home of a million bats, which is fun. Good little backstage tidbit. So we really do look forward to learning from you and getting to know you today, Steve, as well as HackNotice. So why don't we do the getting to know you part? If you could please tell us a bit more about yourself, your background, your passion, and sort of what's led up to HackNotice today. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. So I am a software engineer by training, but as soon as I got my software engineering degrees, I went directly into sales, worked for IBM for a while, and then really caught the bug for startups. So joined my first startup probably 16, 18 years ago. Learned a lot, and then I had the opportunity to start a cybersecurity startup here in Austin, Texas, about a decade ago. So that was my first startup that I built by myself, built it up, bootstrapped it, and then I sold it. After that, I helped build a number of other startups, including Security Scorecard in New York City. But I caught the bug again in terms of wanting to go and build another cybersecurity startup. And so that was the beginning of HackNotice. I've really been a jack of all trades. I've had every engineering and sales role you can have. And now with HackNotice, I am founder and CEO, and this is about my 4.5 years mark with the company.
Wow, congratulations. I think it's good. I think the jack of all trades element, especially when you're a CEO. And I'm interested later on in our conversation to learn sort of, cybersecurity company one versus cybersecurity company two. I'm guessing there's lots of lessons learned in that, and some things that you did the same and some things that you probably did quite differently. It will make for a good conversation for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's highlight HackNotice, first of all, cybersecurity. But who are you and what exactly is the problem that you're solving?
Sure. So my background plays really into our story at HackNotice. So HackNotice, we're a different type of cybersecurity company where we're really focused on people, the average person, the average consumer, the average employee. And what we set out to do is we set out to make it easy for everyone to understand how hackers are targeting them. So my first startup was all about threat intelligence and getting threat intelligence into the hands of security people. But there's a really powerful thing that happens psychologically when you give threat intelligence to the average person. It makes them much more aware of how dangerous the internet is, makes them safer online. So our whole mission is to bring threat intelligence to the masses, make it easy for people to understand how security is meaningful to them, and help them build better security habits online.
Nice. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think an analogy that's coming to my mind, let's say, is if there's a broken pipe in your home, and the first attempt of just the cybersecurity alerts with the IT professionals is like kind of grabbing a mop, right?
Sure.
Versus let's start at the beginning and let's just go turn off the source of the water, and then we can clean it up. So it makes a lot of sense, that approach. So that I think brings us to the topic of today, as chosen by you, Steve. What will we be talking about, America?
3 reasons why your employees hate your security training program. So I think that this is something that many of us have been identified with. So why are security training programs broken, and what is the fix? Please share with us why it's important.
I roll like, oh God, I have to do this. And this series of like very funny, not funny videos, and just like, please. And then some Q&A at the end, and ta-da, you're certified. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone that's been through a security training program hates it, right? I've been through 3 in the last 12 months and I hated it. And when you think about
talking about security, I forgot to lock my door. That's Zoe.
So in terms of security trainings, there's a million reasons why that people hate them, but to talk about why they're broken, security is an active thing, right? You're not you're not secure throughout your day in theory, right? We don't think better thoughts and we're more secure. We're secure when we take action. And so security, whether this is physical security, like locking a door, or this is online security, like not reusing passwords, it's all about what you do in the moment. And so when you think about the model of a security training, that's entirely passive, right? Okay, everyone get into a room, maybe these days it's a Zoom, and I'm gonna lecture you about security and terms you don't care about and things that are completely unrelated to your job. And then I'm gonna give you an assessment that anyone could pass, right? Like these are not hard tests. And so the entire model's broken. But just from even a basic premise, it's really built in a way to make employees hate
it. Yeah, I completely get that. So I think you talked about 3 specific reasons, and I think you're talking about the passive nature. What are the other reasons the other 2 that I didn't catch?
Sure. So the top 3 reasons that employees hate your security training, the number 1 is lectures. Just lectures don't work. It's an entirely broken model. And so if you think of lectures all about sitting passively, being lectured to, like absorbing knowledge. But again, it's not a lack of knowledge. The second that really makes employees hate it is that this is typically a one and done, right? So it's once a year. And this is a little counterintuitive. It's like, well, if employees hate the cybersecurity training, why do they want it more often than just once? And it's because it shows how useless it is. You know, all security and almost all learning is through repetition, right? And so especially security, you need to be constantly reminded throughout your day on how to be secure, on why security is important. If you just do this once a year, you're just letting the employees know that, like, look, we're giving you a cybersecurity training. We don't like it. You don't like it. And then once it's done, you just go back to your normal work life, right? It doesn't have any impact on how you work on a day-to-day basis. So that's number 2. Number 3 is it's generic. So you think about how we all are online today. Every ad you and I receive is tailored to us, right? Like if I go on Amazon, Amazon's going to market to me exactly what they know I want. So the age of just generic trainings or really anything generic for employees is over, right? For you to have any impact on your employees, for you to really capture their attention, it needs to be tailored to them. It needs to be about their job, their workflow. So, you know, a passive learning that's generic and it only happens once a year, it's a recipe for failure.
And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I myself have taken several, I mean, I know cybersecurity and CPR courses, they're not one of the same, but I get it. Like with the CPR course, for example, it's much more hands-on. You're actually practicing and listening and talking. And yes, there's the theory portion in the videos and someone lecturing you. But the difference to me is when it is once a year, every year, I feel like, gosh, number 1, thank God I didn't have to use this. And number 2, I feel really, really good about seeing this again. And I think I walk out of those types of courses feeling more and more prepared each and every time. So when it comes to cybersecurity, how are you making it less passive? How is this active?
Sure. So when CPR is a great example, right? So you're learning a skill and you're actively learning a skill. They're reminding you about the theory, but then you get your hands dirty, right? You actually do something. With cybersecurity, you need everyone that's learning security to be active. You need them to get out of the mode that this is something they need to listen to, but rather it's something they need to do. The core problem we've always had is a motivation problem with cybersecurity. When you think of cybersecurity, it's not been a lack of information. You can go on YouTube right now and watch hundreds of thousands of hours about cybersecurity, but no one's going to do that, right? Because no one's motivated to do that. So the way that you solve the problem is you need to make cybersecurity more about threats, and they need to be real threats, and they need to be real threats to each employee. So Kim, let's say that hackers just stole your phone number and they shared it in the darknet, right? What we do is we would alert you to that, right? And we'd say, okay, hackers have your phone number. That's bad. And what they're typically going to do with that is they're next going to send you a text message. It's called smishing, or they may send you a voicemail called vishing. So we alert you to exactly what the threat is, but then we really focus on taking action. Like there's common sense steps anyone can take today to make themselves safer online. So the best thing to do if a hacker steals your phone number is you need to be really skeptical of any text messages that you receive, right? You got to be on guard against that. Same thing if hackers steal, your password. There's something you can do today to reset your password, to lock down your account. So what we really focus on is common sense steps that anyone can take that makes them safer online, but also gets them out of passive mode and into active mode, being a part of the solution.
And what happens if no one is stealing my phone number? What happens if everything is, how am I going to learn if there is no training every year and there is no
like simulations or things like
exactly
that?
Sure,
like a
yeah.
test per month?
So the sad state of affairs is that there's not a single person on the planet where hackers haven't stolen something, right? And so with HackNotice, the two things that we're focused on is the websites that you use, and then your online identity. That can be your work email address, your personal email address, even potentially your family, your kids. And so with us, if you're using the top 10 websites, the most common websites online, you've been a part of close to hundreds of data breaches, right? And so we still have videos. You can still learn about certain topics. We have an assessment that you can take. But the main way that we train people is through real security events they've been a part of. And so far across our entire platform, there's never been a single person that's not had an event.
Well,
no one is
going back to this like telephone number example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my question for you, and this might be pretty basic, and you can do some cybersecurity training right now.
Sure.
Why does it matter? I mean, I'm a child of the 80s. I firmly remember the local phone book, and you could pretty much find everyone's telephone number and everyone's address at the flip of a page. Why has that changed? Why should I be worried about somebody having my telephone number in the first place?
Sure, there's a number of reasons. So first, your telephone number is going to be linked to you, which is likely going to be linked to your job, and then that's going to be linked to your online accounts that may be linked to your bank account. So your telephone number is no longer just
things that didn't exist like in the 80s.
Exactly, yeah. And not only that, but your phone is being used for authentication, right? If your bank needs to verify that you are you, they use your phone. They either send you a text message or they send you some sort of push notification to your phone. Well, hackers have gotten very good at something called SIM swapping. SIM swapping is where a hacker can call up, let's say you're using T-Mobile or AT&T. They can call up the customer service number and say, I have a new SIM card. Please switch my phone number to the new SIM card. Suddenly, everyone that's trusting your number is now trusting the hacker. Right. So we've turned phone numbers into something trusted, but they're incredibly insecure. And as soon as I have your phone number and I can figure out who your provider is, I can take over your phone and I can take over your life.
Yeah, thank you. Makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. Now, going back to something you said earlier, the deep web. Did you say deep web or dark web or both?
We're often in both all the time. I think I said the dark net, but there's the deep web as well.
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure the difference between the two. You can clarify that for me. But I am interested in the tech that you're utilizing at HackNotice, and so I would like to talk about the tech side and also the more human side, and that's the trust component. Right. So I'm clearly not trusting a hacker who's accessing this information on the dark side, why should I trust HackNotice?
Sure. So HackNotice, we're a collection of security professionals that have been doing this for decades. And our entire mission is to access all of these dark, deep places that hackers get together and really be a watchdog service for you. So with our clients, they really don't have to trust us, because what we do is we deliver to them everything that hackers are sharing about them. So it's very little that our clients have to tell us. We already know their email address. They can tell us what websites they use, but that's often very, very public, non-sensitive information. But what we deliver is everything. Every data breach that you've been a part of, every piece of data that hackers have shared about you. And so from the tech side, the way that works is that we have a long experience of being in the darknet, being in these hacker forums. We have accounts that go back decades. They look like hackers, they sound like hackers, but it's really us. So we're in hundreds of forums. We're very active with a lot of these criminal gangs. And so what we do is we sit on the sidelines, and everything they share, we collect it. And then we go through it, we find what belongs to you, Kim, and then we deliver it to you in a way that you can understand it. So that means we're not delivering raw data or anything like directly from hackers. We clean it up, we make it easy to understand, and then we help you understand what you can do about it.
Who are your customers? What kind of verticals do you provide this? Is there a trend for the IT services, or it could be like anyone?
Yeah, so with our customers, every employee at our customers uses HackNotice. This is really built for everyone at the company. We do focus on specific industries. It's really the regulated industries. The reason for that is because all of those industries have to do at least an annual security training and assessment. It's built into the regulation. And these are very common regulations. It's everything from FDIC for banks, HIPAA for healthcare, PCI DSS, which is anyone who touches a credit card. So if anyone touches a credit card, that person is required to receive a security training at least once a year. That means fast food, restaurants, hospitality, all of the above. And so we focus on businesses that have been giving security trainings to their employees. And we focus on them because they know it doesn't work, right? They've been sitting in these static lectures for 10, 20 years. Hackers keep hacking. They're getting better at it all the time. And their employees are really not learning the key skills they need to protect themselves. And so we focus on them. So I'd say, banking, healthcare, high technology, insurance, just to name a few. Those are the verticals. And then we have a number of large companies that are using us today, everything from Fortune 1000 companies all the way to Fortune 5. We also have some small to medium businesses. We don't have any pricing caps or pricing minimums. And so we've had some 5-10 person companies that have signed up for our service because they care about their employees. They want them to be safe.
Yeah, that's really great. So I'd like to kind of walk through a bit of the security training experience that we might expect with HackNotice. What does this look like? How simple is it? What is the experience? How is it really different?
Sure. Yeah. So we really focus on meeting every person where they live. So we have mobile apps for iOS and Android. We have a browser extension if you're using Chrome or Edge. And so we have something called the habit forming lifecycle. It's built into our process. And so what we do is every employee sets up their watch list. These are the sites they like to use. This is their online identity. And then we take it from there. So let's say that there's a brand new data breach and some hackers sharing your home address, phone number, date of birth, password, just all of it, you name it. So what we do is as soon as we get that into our system, we send you an alert. This is going to be a push notification on your phone. This is all going to happen in real time. And so once we've sent you that alert, you can log into HackNotice and you can learn more about the event. We're going to tell you everything that we know. We're going to say, okay, this hacker just shared all of your information and it looks like it came from Microsoft or Apple or someone who recently got breached. And so you're able to learn about the event, right? and then we'll draw out for you the most common attacks. So home address is a great way to commit fraud. Home address is also going to be potentially government fraud, maybe a new bank account. There's a lot of different types of fraud that we would identify. And then we'd focus on taking steps, right? If you're in the US and you've not frozen your credit, you can freeze your credit right now. We really focus on free steps as well, the things that people don't have to pay for. There's free identity theft that you can freeze your credit. You can call your bank and say, hey, you should, put some safeguards on my account to make sure that there's not any fraudulent charges. If it gets bad enough, you can even call your bank and get a new bank card or even a new account number. So that's the life cycle. But all this happens on your phone. All this happens, in your browser. You're able to do this, during the middle of your day, 1 to 5 minutes. Take action, and then we really focus on having you check this off your list. The number of security events that people deal with each year, it's in the dozens to the hundreds. And so we want people to learn about these events and then say, okay, I've taken action. I'm going to check it off my list, and then they can go back to their day.
I really like the idea of meeting you where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious. Now, I know that your focus here is more like of an enterprise focus, but how much of that would involve your users' personal email addresses and information, and then their work email addresses and information? I know that they're supposedly two distinct entities, but the reality is most of us, whether we're supposed to or not, utilize our personal cell phones for work-related events, our work laptops for personal shopping and whatever else. So are you merging these two, or is it just the work components?
Absolutely. So we, by default, will have your work-related sites and your work email. That all happens before you even log in. But then we do encourage everyone to put in their personal websites and their personal email address. We've had users request, hey, can I put in my family, my kids, so I can monitor them as well. So the first thing is we have a privacy framework built in from the ground up. So you only have to tell us what you feel comfortable telling us about. And then you can make all of these items private, or you can share them with the security team. So this is not just a service that HackNotice gives to an employee. We're doing this with your company and with your security team. And that's so that they can help if you need help. So we don't expect employees to become security experts. We let employees say, okay, here's my websites that I care about. Here's my personal email address. And then they'll be receiving these security events, but they can raise their hand if they have trouble. And we've got chat built into our platform. They can submit tickets to their security team. They can really collaborate on these events. And so we do encourage everyone to put in their personal items. And that's because hackers don't care if if it's after 5 o'clock and you've gone home, or if you switch to your personal email address. Hackers attack the entire person. And so we have to protect the entire person and make them safe. A lot of our customers see this as a benefit because it's not just something that they're doing at work, but it's something that they can carry with them at home as well.
I'm curious, what's the biggest challenge related to hacker attacks that you have seen in your experience? You have been doing this for how many years? You say more than 15 or something?
Yeah, for a little bit more than 15 years. What's the biggest challenge? So I think that there's this perception that security is the security team's job, right? Everyone thinks, oh, we've got a security team, and so it's their job to keep me secure. And that's just not the case. And so the biggest challenge is overcoming some preconceived biases that the security team has got it all under control. They don't, right? They really need help. What we've learned is that every year is the worst year for data breaches. Ransomware didn't even exist as a phenomenon like 5 years ago, and now it's everywhere. The challenge is that the cybercrime industry, it's a $6 trillion industry. So the incentive is there.
That's with a T.
With a T, yeah, exactly. Wow. Not a B. So when you think of security budgets, you think in terms of billions with a B. when you think of cybercrime, you think of in terms of trillions with the T. And so the average hacker, even if they are starting off, maybe have low skills, they have the opportunity to make millions even in their first year. So there's really this imbalance of incentive. There's a lot of people with a lot of monetary incentive to get into hacking and cybercrime. And then if you rely only on the security team, right, to keep the whole company secure, that's just never going to work. And so the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity that we see is if we can democratize security. Let's make security something that we all do together. We're all on guard against hackers. That's going to be the biggest way to help combat this ever-growing tide of fraud.
That's great. I have so many questions and so many things that we could talk about, especially this idea of you guys being like undercover cops in the dark web. You just sort of sit there like, I belong, but I don't. Like that's a really crazy concept and something that I didn't even know like was a real thing. I totally thought that was just some like Hollywood element of
no, that's life. I'm in Telegram channels with some very scary hackers. We've been propositioned before. They tried to recruit us into their gang. And then we sit in a number of forums, hundreds of forums, a lot of Russian forums, and we just watch crimes happen going back and forth. It's to the point that people even specialize. And so some hackers don't even hack anymore. They will collect data and they'll sell it. Some hackers focus on money laundering, right? Like, oh, I'll wash your crypto coins or things like that. So there's a lot of specialization and a lot of advertising and bidding. It's a whole industry, and it's always going on. It's only getting more active.
Absolutely mind-blowing. We are coming to the very final few minutes of our talk today, if you can believe it or not. 30 minutes goes by quickly. I wanted to bring it back to HackNotice and the company culture that you're building. Clearly, trust is something that is high up on your skill sets as well. The ability to put on your poker face, and I don't know. But what is the company culture that you're building? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. So, we are really focused on let's treat adults like adults. Let's treat everyone like fully formed adults. And we love to give people the ability to really shine. And so we're focused on let's enable people. Let's give them the tools to be successful. And let's also just give them the ability to help in any way they can. So the cultures that we really focus on, we're very much solution oriented. We want everyone to feel enabled to grow and learn, and also grow and learn at their own pace, right? And so we think that the most important thing we can do is give people the tools they need and then get out of the way. And we've been very pleasantly surprised by doing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wanted to come back to what we talked about earlier at the show, and this is your lessons learned. Cybersecurity business number 1 versus cybersecurity business number 2. What are your words of wisdom of things that you've done right and things that you would maybe guide people into not doing?
Sure. So I've done a million things wrong. That's a long list. The things that I did right in the first business and that I'm taking to the second business, really listening to the customer, listening to the market, making sure that you are building something that people care about. I also think challenging preconceived conceptions. When I built HackNotice and even my first company, a lot of people love to say, no, you're going to fail. It's a horrible idea. A few years later, they're like, oh man, that was a great idea. I wish I had come up with that. So being willing to go against the grain or go against the crowd, those are some of the things that we did right. Things we've done wrong. Building solutions to problems people didn't care about. I would say maybe hiring too fast, right? Like culture is a really big part of hiring, and maybe someone's got the right skill set, but they're not a culture fit. That can end up being a really big challenge. And then also not really defining your culture. That was one thing that we were really kind of late on, because you want to figure out what culture do you want to build at your company. And then you want to present it to people and be like, this is the culture that we're going for. And if people don't know what culture you intend on building, then you could end up with a toxic culture or a culture that just isn't what you are looking for.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of culture in and of itself is really interesting. It becomes sort of in some ways a chicken or the egg cycle, right? You present, this is who we want to be, and then you have to compare that to who we are, and maybe who we are, right, then is influencing who we want to be, continue to be or to become. And it's definitely something that's not always static. Like cybersecurity.
Yeah. And we included in our hiring process, there have been some great people that just, they weren't a culture fit, and we couldn't have them be a part of the team, that they're off being highly successful other places, but we really need to make sure that we have, a good, inclusive culture. And so it's a part of how we hire as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for your time today. It's been great getting to know you, Steve, as well as more about HackNotice and how security training does not have to be a burden. So thank you again. Stick around for just a minute as we go off air. But before we go off air, we would like to introduce the next two shows that we'll have this week. What do we got coming up, America?
We have tomorrow's show that is going to be 12 p.m. Pacific with Darren Moriner, CEO and co-founder at Cloverleaf. The topic is going to be about how you can do your best work. And then Thursday, we're going to have another show with Lindsay Tujipkima. Yes, I pronounced it correctly based on Google Translate, I guess. And she is the CEO and co-founder at Casted. The topic is going to be about turning creativity into marketing fuel. 12 p.m. Pacific.
Thank you. So we'll see you tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Thank you again, Steve. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.